Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Bill G. and Alex King. Today is Tuesday, April the 30th, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in London. Sydney, Australia is at 10 p.m. But wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today. Your daily dose of happy, and we're happy to be able to do this at all because Zoom and the live streaming doesn't seem to be working, but we can at least record what we're doing. So that's the happy part. That's the really good part today. And it's especially good because we have a special guest that Bill has brought along to share some of her insights. Bill, why don't you introduce our guest, since you know her a whole lot better than we do?
Okay. Well, our special guest today is Malabika Shaw. She is a SRT teacher. She's a teacher instructor for that teaches spiritual response therapy, and she's been doing this for a number of years. And whenever I run into a problem, whatever, I give her a call and give her a text and say, hey, I could use a little clearing here. And since we've been spending the last 6 weeks talking about doing a SRT session for Alex, I thought it was a good idea to bring her on to talk about if anyone was actually interested in learning this technique for themselves, who better to talk about it than a fellow SRT instructor?
Absolutely. Well, Malabika, thank you very much for joining us. We're glad to have you here today.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited. Thank you for including me.
Oh, we're glad to have you. And of course, our good friend Alex has been the subject of all of these sessions. We did 6 weeks of this, Alex. I'm amazed that you didn't melt into the carpet or something,
I didn't even notice it was 6 weeks.
Well, that's good to know. That means it was painless. So that's a good thing.
Yes, it was painless.
It was painless. Now, I want you to kind of rehash for people, what have you experienced in terms of any changes since we started doing this?
Any changes? Well, like I said last week, there's been abundance of opportunities and lots of ideas coming my way, and I don't know what else. I can't think of anything else. No headway on the sleep situation.
Yeah, Malabika, are you aware of what Alex has been dealing with and what Bill was trying to clear using the SRT?
I'm not aware, no.
Oh, okay. Because Alex has a very severe insomnia program. She has a number of other issues that she's been diagnosed with that Bill's been also trying to help her with. But the insomnia was the one we were first interested in going after, because she actually, I didn't know this was actually possible, but she survives on 1 to 2 hours sleep a night. Yep. And she looks great. I mean, look at her. She doesn't look psychotic or anything, but nevertheless, 1 to 2 hours sleep. And we're thinking, well, geez, there ought to be some way to help her with this. So that's what we've been going after.
I see. So can I ask you a question though? Is this, does it bother you that you sleep only 2 hours, or are you fine?
I'm fine.
Yeah, maybe you're one of those people who doesn't need more than 2 hours of sleep, and it's only the collective mindset that's telling you something must be wrong with you.
Exactly.
Don't fall for it.
Thank you.
I think Bill has done a fine job for your mind to be open and willing to accept that reality, that what, I came here to create. So instead of having 16 hours a day like everybody else, I have 22. So
right. That's a fact. I like that.
Now, Bill, when we were doing these sessions, one of the things that you picked up on in terms of the information you received was that this could actually turn into a health issue for Alex later on. So
it could. Yeah.
So how do we iron all that out?
Well, what we did was when we first addressed the insomnia issue, we found that the purpose of it was to increase your creativity, but at the same time, it was also causing the possibility of creating a long-term block in terms of your health. It's like the candle that burns twice as bright burns half as long.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if the idea is to get the candle to burn as long as possible, then we need to pull back a little bit on that to allow the body to get its adequate rest and whatever, so that way it doesn't burn out so fast.
Right.
But when we were starting to go into that, we found there was the anxiety issues came up. Then we had some past life issues and some. Then we did a inner child research, and then we did a brain restructuring, and then we did the mop up, and so we did a lot to try and solidify your field and to inform your soul of what you needed to do in order to move forward.
Wow. So, the word that stood out for me when we were speaking, Bill, is in the anxiety part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what I understand from the law of attraction and from the spiritual response therapy, which Bill has spoken to you about, is that everything is based on beliefs, perceptions, and judgments, which we have accumulated not just in our own lifetimes, but which we have inherited from our ancestors, from our race, from our gender, and all of that. So a lot of it is in the subconscious and in the unconscious. But if you were for a moment to accept this theory that I just put out for you, Alex, to say, hey, I'm one of those people who doesn't need 8 hours of sleep, 2 hours is good. But if you're staying up because of anxiety, that means there are fears, right? Now, those fears may be coming from belief systems which were not particularly yours, but you have bought into them. This is one of the biggest problems of applying law of attraction.
Right.
Is that we are so conditioned into the collective mind, into the collective consciousness, that we don't realize that this become a part of us. And then we do need to sort of very consciously, layer by layer, remove and change those in order to come into a place of greater equanimity with oneself. So, and the thing is that creativity would like more time on earth, right? Whether it's every day or it's throughout the life. But anxiety will block it.
Facts.
Yeah.
So what do we do about that? I mean, not just Alex, but anybody in general. How do we handle that kind of a balance? Because we have on the one hand, on the other hand.
So yeah, so on the one hand, one of the things I want to say about my discovery with the law of attraction, little bits and pieces keep coming to you as you're growing up. Like somebody talks about synchronicity, somebody talks about what a coincidence, it's so lucky, you are blessed. All these, so people have been experiencing it. But there are only a few who actually talked about it in real assertive terms. People like Napoleon Hill or people. Recently, I got this book by, I forget the gentleman's name, written about 100 years ago, where he so clearly and precisely, of course, he talks about making money, applying the through law of attraction, and one of those things that all of us have interest in. But the principles are so clear in the sense that wherever you're putting your energy, wherever your thought is going, and energy is not just physical, right? Thought is energy, emotion is energy. It will take you in, create a kind of groove for you in this ocean of consciousness, if you will. And if the stronger that groove it is, and the more directed and focused it is towards the end that we have desired, it has to take you there. I mean, there are no two ways about it. It's like gravity. You can't argue with gravity. It's there. You have to just use it to your advantage and do what you can do with it. And sometimes it becomes a little bit of a problem when, you are trying to, jump up higher to get that beautiful bright mango, which I did, and it doesn't allow you. But so once we decide that this is irrefutable, this has to happen, the only thing that keeps us from there is gravity, and that when I say gravity, I mean is our presence on earth. We are so identified with the physical part of us that we forget about the energy. The energy that we are sending is actually a non-physical thing. So it's out there. And it's listening to my every thought that I think, every word that I speak, every desire that I have. It's listening constantly, and there's a consciousness. We don't remember that, and I think that is really the training. We have to train our mind to be able to see us in that larger context, and anything that sort of makes me feel like something is happening here, it's stopping me from going in that direction that I have chosen to go. What is it? And when we identify, when we are able to bring it to our conscious mind, it gives us a tool to deal with it. Now, how we deal with it, that's a different thing. And that's where I think spiritual response therapy comes in, because I've studied and practiced many different modalities, but this is to me the most comprehensive. Because in spiritual response therapy, Robert Detzler, who actually downloaded this whole structure, it gives you a map of consciousness. And to me, it's like we are trying to get out from this earth beings that we are so identified with, this physical personality, presence of ourselves. We are trying to rise up from that to be able to be present in different multi-dimensions, because our thoughts, beliefs, perception actually affect those. So what my ancestors thought 8 generations ago, and I come across this a lot, it's called a miasm. Like a miasm may be something like, oh, no matter what I do, I will never be able to make money. No matter what I do, I will not get past this problem of not being able to sleep. My mother had it, my grandfather had the same problem. It's genetic. Then, the doctors will tell you, yeah, it's genetics. But, Bruce Lipton will tell you, and Candice Pert will tell you, you can change that.
Mm-hmm.
Change your beliefs, you can change that. What it requires, a lot of the times, you see, we don't realize. We're so conditioned in the way we think, we don't realize. But somebody who practices this, like I just said, I heard the word anxiety and immediately red flag, red flag, red flag. Yeah. So it's always nice to have a group of people to work with, because what I can't see, they can. And then you come to this question, you ask yourself the question, what am I anxious about really? What am I believing about my life? What if I, don't have all the years to live? So then, people who will counsel you will tell you, don't worry about the future. It's not there yet. Don't worry about the past. It's gone. Are you here now? Is it working for you now? Are you feeling happy now? Is Bill there to clear the energy for you now? So that's the training, and that's the pathway that I find that as a coach, as a spiritual coach, a lot of my effort is focused on, let's come back to the here, because this is where everything is happening, to this moment, and see how you're doing. What's bothering you? What are you believing? Can you change that? And it's true, we can't change everything, because even changing course requires a lot of energy, effort, time, and we may or may not have that, or we may not be comfortable with that right now, which is fine. There's nothing in life is ever wrong. So this is what I have, but it doesn't stop me for desiring to change course. And once I have decided that, then there are ways to move in that direction.
By the way, you mentioned that we can't argue with gravity. I wanted to point out we actually could argue with it. It's just that we'll lose the argument every time. But it is possible to argue with it. And you can argue with the law of attraction too, but that's another argument that you keep losing. And that, you mentioned miasma. That's pretty much what miasma is. That's losing the argument with law of attraction every single time. And
that's absolutely right.
And the insane part about it is that you keep losing the argument expecting you're going to get a different result each time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
and this is something, people will come and tell you, law of attraction doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I turn around and ask them, does gravity work for you? What kind of a question is that? You can't do anything about gravity. And you know what? It's the same principle. It's just that we are only scratching the surface of it right now.
True. One thing I do have a curiosity about, and I've asked Bill about this, and I'm curious to know what your take is on it. I bought a couple of the Robert Detzler books, and I've been reading through and looking at the charts and kind of getting a feel for how the whole thing works. And it really struck me how almost all the charts, Bill pointed out the ones that are not in this category, but almost all of the charts talk about focusing on all the things that we don't want in life. And so much of what we do with law of attraction is we try to remind ourselves, no, don't focus on what you don't want. Focus on what you do want. Otherwise, you're going to get more of what you don't want. So I'm curious to know what your take is on that. I mean, SRT does seem to have a lot of benefit for people, and yet all this focus on what we don't want. And I'd like to know what you think about that.
I'm so glad that you're speaking to this, because this has also been a dilemma for me. And I think what the advantage of the work and the study is that that's where people's minds are. It's not working. It's not working. Everything that I like and love and life is going in a flowing pattern and I'm having great fun, I'm not even bothered about it. Exactly the place where I get stuck, oops, what happened there? And then the next thing we do is take a victim position.
Oh, yes.
Just like that. Like, oh, there is some power out there. There's somebody, could be my dad, could be my boss, could be my country or whatever. There is some power out there. Who has the power to deal with this? I don't have it. Okay, so what Robert very nicely has said is that look at where it's coming from. This thing, because one of the pictures that I have in my head is that we're trying to get out into this place. It's like a funnel. We're trying to climb out into this greater space of beingness and creativity, etc. Now, along the walls, we need something to push against to get up there. And this is true of law of attraction. This is the contrast. What are you pushing against? Where are you trying to go? You know what you don't want? What do you want? So it gives the mind, it's really about the mind. It gives the mind something to recognize and say, yeah, I recognize that. That's what I don't need. So now let me clarify, what is it? Oh, I need a step which is bigger than that. And Robert's, the map that he has laid out through all these 40-some charts not only talks about stuff that we have created through our multiple births on Earth, but also as our soul was being designed, how it came about, because the picture is much bigger. So don't think you've come out into this place means that you're done. No, there is more space to clear. How will you clear those? So here are the things. Here is spirit level programs. Here is soul level programs. The soul charted out this map to come. Why? And this is the why part of it, is the part that I really love. It's because he wanted to have fun. He wanted some mountains to climb. Here is your mountain. Go climb it. Yeah. So, it's true. It's true that we have to focus on everything that we want. But can you imagine a life, Walt, where you didn't have any problems?
Not really, no.
Can you imagine how dull and boring that would be?
Well, yeah, that much I can't imagine. And I honestly don't believe that I would want a life that had absolutely no problems at all in it. I think what most of us want is to, in some way, have some control over, okay, I'm going to work with this group of problems. I don't need a whole bunch coming from over here that are irrelevant to what I have in mind. And so I want to have control over what problems I'm going to work on.
Yeah. And so that's what, okay, let me come back here, which is within my reach, within my sphere of influence, if you will. Yeah. There is, I come from a management background, and one of the things that I read, somebody had written saying that, if you have two companies, one which runs smoothly, you know, everything is okay, makes lots of money, and there are no problems, no conflicts, and you have another one where there's a lot of conflicts there, lots of stuff going on, etc. They said, you will invest in the first, but you will work on the second. Because there is such fun in being able to resolve those problems and move forward. So life is exactly like that. That, gosh, come on, let's do something. It gives us an opportunity to be creative, which otherwise gets dull.
That's true. The analogy that you used there reminds me of a sports analogy from the world of baseball. The question is asked, if you were a baseball manager and you had two players who were trying out for the same position, and the only difference between the two of them, they both were about equal on hitting, they were about equal on throwing, they were about equal on fielding, but the one difference was on their speed. And it wasn't even so much their speed, it was their running ability. They could both run to first base at the same speed, but one had perfect form and the other one had terrible form. Which one would you take on to your team? And the answer that the manager gives is, I'll take the one with terrible form, because if I can improve his form, he'll run faster. I can't do anything with the guy who's already running with perfect form.
Exactly. This is exactly the point about focusing on what's not working.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's
but
true.
Ultimately, the principle you're saying is absolutely the fundamental thing. And that is, what is it that you desire?
Now that raises another question for me. Detzler, if I remember correctly, in one of the books, mentioned that this is an ongoing download, if you will. It's an ongoing expansion of this understanding about SRT. So he came up with these 40-odd charts, but the way he said it sounds like he's saying there ought to be more charts created, and that the practitioners who follow me should be, downloading and creating charts as they go along. So that leads to two questions on my part. The first question is anyone doing that? And second of all, kind of an adjunct to that, is anyone downloading charts that focus on getting ideas about what people want instead of what they don't want?
Oh, good questions. Yeah. Well, let me respond to the first one. This I think is a dilemma for all prophets, because the information they download is so far out of reach from the people who surround them. It takes a long time for us to raise. I mean, you have how many interpretations of the Bible, and through the years. So
one for every person, I believe.
So the standard is so high. I mean, you look at the world around, you will see that it really takes a while for people to realize, wow, this is gold. And that, as Detzler says, even to understand that because he said that Father speaks to me, but it will speak to you. You just create that connection with this voice. And for us to realize that, and he was so deified by some people saying that, well, if Robert said it, it was truth.
That's right.
Somebody else says it, it's not. Yeah, and that is like, okay, let's protect what Robert said. So that kind of tends to get a little bit out of the way. But I think what you're saying is now being realized, that all this information is coming to the people who were trained by Robert and further trained. We just have to figure out a way, because it's a little hairy. Robert was one person. Now we have like 25 people saying, Spirit's telling me this, and I'm getting this, and here is the information. And a lot of it is actually out there on the webs. A lot of people who've practiced this and have created that connection have gone out and published their own charts and things. Now, whether we officially accept it as a part of SRT or not is a whole different question. But absolutely right. We are using it. We tell each other, oh, have you seen so-and-so's article on this? Or have you seen so-and-so's charts on this? So we have to be open to even receiving that. And there is a kind of school of thought saying, no, we must protect this knowledge. And
oh dear, that's a death knell right there.
Yeah, and
don't ever let it grow.
and if you don't let it grow, it dies. Yeah. There is no plateau. You can't hold it there. Either it has to go up or it goes down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. So that's, I think, happening slowly but surely, I'd like to say.
Yeah, I've created my own charts as well. Because my wife and I do work together. She's not an XRT practitioner, but she uses dowsing, and we combine her. She's an acupuncturist, and she's also does a lot of shamanic healing. And so we've combined our knowledge in a number of places, and we've come up with chakra clearing charts. We've come up with influences charts, and I heard on the show last week, Walt, you created your own chart with
I did.
with the Abraham Hicks emotional
I did.
scale. So
Yeah.
and when you were describing it to Louis about how you were using the chart, I was just like shouting at the radio, saying, "Yes, that is exactly how you use it."
So here is the thing, Walt. Again, you're staying with the same question you'd first asked. To me, the practice of SRT can very clearly be separated into two parts. The first part, which is a very solid training in SRT, is that how do you learn to communicate with higher intelligence? Okay. And we call that prep to work. So before you even start asking questions. And we do that, and you have to know what might affect it, how you'll create that space, how you'll protect that space, how you will sustain that connection. So those are all very important things. Once you are there, the rest of it is ask. Ask and you find. Now, the second part of SRT is Robert has given us this map which helps us ask the questions. But we don't have to stay confined to Robert's. Dowsing is something which has been used for time immemorial. I don't know how long. So if dowsing is the tool which gives you an indication of what the answer may be, you can ask whatever you want. You can ask, I have charts where I have, well, which of these modalities will support my client to be able to bring this cleared energy down and seed it in on earth. Should we do meditation? Should we do sound healing? Should we do emotional freedom technique? Should we do this? And I'll teach them and I'll tell them, go practice this. But the energy is cleared. Now, to bring that into our three-dimensional reality, we have to participate and keep it going. So, yes, by all means, I would say go make your charts. Anything that is important to you, anything you have alternatives that the logical mind is not able to discern, ask your higher intelligence which way to go, because the logical mind is stuck in the past. It's through experience.
Very true.
Yeah.
To me, I'm just amazed that it works at all, to be honest. I mean, because when I first, I ordered myself a pendulum, and I started playing with it and following what the book was talking about, and followed what I remembered Bill talking about here on the show. And okay, so I'd start doing this and asking questions and getting answers, and the answers were consistent. And I was saying, that's pretty crazy. I mean, it keeps giving me consistent answers. I didn't expect. I thought this was like kind of a woo-woo thing. No, it actually works.
I came across a very profound quote from Albert Einstein. And he talks about dowsing, and he talks about the reason why it works beyond the mind is because our nervous system is a very highly sophisticated system which is designed to resonate with the universe's vibrations. That is why it works. And the dowsing tool doesn't do anything. It is just a magnifier or an amplifier.
Right. Yeah.
The real thing is the body.
That makes sense, because obviously that it's an object. And while according to what Abraham Hicks teaches us and other teachers teach us, everything has source energy in it, so everything is alive in a sense. Yeah. Despite that fact, it's simply an object that we're working with. We're the ones who are the actual conductors of whatever it is we're trying to do. So of course it's got to be us. But nevertheless, when we pull it off, it's still amazing.
Yeah, right. So, we have become so, and I think this is the stage that we are passing through, where we think it's our mind is the biggest asset that we have. Whereas in truth, it's actually the body. The body is far superior, far more intelligent than the mind. And that's what the dowsing is. It's the body giving the answers.
So when you say the body is more intelligent, talk about that for a moment. What do you mean by that?
Oh, it's exquisitely designed. Exactly what Albert Einstein said, that it resonates with the vibrations of the universe. So it gives us much more information than the mind can access directly. And some of that information is on our superconscious mind. It's still mind. According to the SRT system, we have 22 minds operating at multiple different levels, different dimensions. So somewhere, one of those minds or multiple of those minds is actually resonating with what's going on in the universe. And then it downloads to us according to our capability of receiving that. It's like your radio tuner, What is the scope of your receiver? How much can you receive? How much can you fine tune it? How much can you get? And if you look at the body, the way it works, from the time of conception of the body, because the conception begins before the first few cells come together. That's the physical part of it. But the process of it, that it's already been there. It's been there for millennia. How long has the human species been around? But the level of consciousness where we are now is far different from where it used to be 200, 300, 400 years ago. And that is a process of the evolution. So you have your endocrine system, all the hormones that it is releasing. There is, in the last 25 years or so, there is an organization called Heart Math Institute out of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
They have done some amazing research about the heart and opening of the heart, because our body's dowsing capability actually will come from our heart being open. If we stay in fear a lot and we don't want to open the heart, then our the capability of the body to be able to sense that becomes muted, becomes compromised. So this is why you will see all kinds of traditional thinking when we were not so much head oriented and not so much noise, lots of talks and everybody giving advice to everybody else and trying to live their lives and exploiting, doing all kinds of things. You find those are the ancient traditions. They will talk about your connection with the earth, because that's important, because we are earth beings. If you don't resonate with the earth, we will not be in alignment. Mm-hmm. And aligning with spirit, which is the highest level of vibration that we download all the time. So these two things in my mind, three actually, need to be in alignment for us to be at our optimum operational level. Our connection with the earth needs to be solid, grounded, centered. Our connection with spirit, which is what we do in SRT, connecting from the crown center, open to receive, and the heart has to be open. So that is what gives us that perfect pitch, like when you tune your guitar, and which gives you the most beautiful note. So that's where the body needs to be, mm-hmm. which we have forgotten. Every time the body does something that we don't like, we go into like, oh my gosh, my body is not keeping even your guitar, folks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so the body is the first to tell you something is not working. There'll be a pain, there'll be an upset, there'll be loss of sleep. What's going on? And what's not working can be the physical, the body itself. It's the last place it lands. The first place is spiritual. Is my spirit feeling somehow crushed, contained, oppressed, depressed, suppressed? It starts there. And in order to deal with that, we get into the mind space and we try and rationalize and say, oh my gosh, I'm married to this person. Now I can't leave them because what will society tell me and all that? This person is killing your spirit. Leave, go, be free. Mm-hmm. I can't do that. How will I live? All the fears come. Mm-hmm. Right? So if we don't find a way to recognize that this is what's going on. And law of attraction will tell you, you don't have to do anything. You just have to ask for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll come to you step by step. Don't get impatient. Don't get into a hopeless place. Just stay with the program and keep visualizing, keep seeing, be happy. Do what is here today to the best of your ability. And it'll take you there. Because when we are in that, when the heart is open, and I'm not, blaming and complaining and condemning, then the spiritual wisdom comes. And then, bit by bit. And I have experienced it personally, so I can speak very authoritatively about it. Just follow the steps that has been laid out. You will get waylaid. Then you need somebody like Malabika to tell you, hey, come back on course. And with help. And so that's the way we go. And from there, it comes to the mental emotional. We have to change our beliefs, perceptions. That's the mental part. The emotional, we have to deal with our fears as they come up. And dealing with the fears also, you can do like, what am I afraid of? What am I believing about? Like, example, I'll give you. I need to get out of this relationship, but I can't. Why? What am I afraid of? Because, he pays the rent. Okay. So what is my belief here then? That I somehow am not capable of paying rent. I'm not resilient enough to be able to live in a smaller place. I'm not enough. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's always, you ask the question, layer by layer, you go down, it always comes down to, I'm not enough. Mm-hmm. Why would you not be enough? You have a spiritual guidance which will always take you through in the path that your soul has decided for you. Will you give that a chance? And the moment a person takes that decision, so this is another very important place, we can't be sitting on the fence. We have to take that decision. Freedom is mine, whatever it takes. And then those opportunities will show up. Like, Alex was saying, opportunities are coming. Have you taken a decision to be free? If you're not ready today, fine. The pain gets higher than the fear, you will take that decision. And that's what happens to us. But if you want to wait that long, then it becomes harder. Because in the meantime, you're miserable. And when you're in misery, your higher guidance gets corrupted. You can't hear it.
That's true.
Yeah.
I've been asking most of the questions, but Alex, did you have anything that you wanted to bring up and ask Malabika about, whether it's about you or just in general? I mean, anything that you wanted to bring in?
Yes, I have this fear. And since we're talking about fears and anxieties, I have this, I want to say it's irrational because it doesn't make sense, but it's rational to me that my mother's going to pass. And it's to the extreme. I mean, I know she's going to one day. I mean, it's going to happen. But it's to the extreme where if she oversleeps, I freak out and think that she's passed in her sleep and there was nothing I could have done about it. And it's every day. So how do I get rid of that?
Well, first of all, I'm laughing. Don't be upset. According to my data, 10 out of 10 people die.
Are you sure about that? Have you done some, special testing and so forth?
Yeah, control group. Yeah. So the real issue over here, Alex, is not that your mother is going to pass, which she eventually will, as we all. Your real fear is that what is your emotional codependency on your mother? That makes you believe that when she passes, your life will turn around in such a way that you will not be able to handle it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the question you need to ask and think about it. What am I believing? Oh, I love my mother so much. How will I live without her? You will live without her. That possibility exists, but right now you're so close to it. Like, let me stay awake so my mother doesn't sleep too late.
I love it.
Isn't that ridiculous? Yeah. Somehow I'll prevent this if I'm awake. So to me, this is a place, and I think, Bill, you were, Walt, a while ago, you were talking about the cycle. There is something called the octave of learning. You know, we have to pass through these phases of, in order to get to that next place, next level of expression. And the first of it, of course, the desire that I wish to be free from this anxiety. And you desired it strongly enough, that's a decision. Then you have to move. And the next step is faith. You have to believe that what I have desired is possible. If you don't have the faith that it is possible and I can attract it to me, then that's weak. So we have to first get there. Do I really want it? Yes, I want it. Is it possible for me to get it? Yes, it's possible. Why do you think it's possible? Because I know the law of attraction works in that way. When I place my desire and energy, belief, and focus on that, it has to come to me. Mm-hmm. Okay, so taking this decision, I'm opening the door. Come to me. Relieve me of this great anxiety of my mother's death. And then I would sort of focus on all the wonderful times that I'm continuing to have today. Mm-hmm. She's not read right now. Yeah. No. So this is the place where I'm going to withdraw all the energy that I put out into the future with the worst fears, because when I'm there, my energy goes there. Mm-hmm. My energy is a part of my consciousness, my life, and I can't operate there. It doesn't exist. It's only in the illusion, right? And mm-hmm. And if in the past, my mother has helped me with this, and this, if she goes away, I will not have that support. Let's not go there either. Mm-hmm. You won't have that support. You will have other support. Mm-hmm. You will have folks come up into your life who will give you that and more. So by focusing in that direction or in this direction, we're shutting those doors. Mm-hmm. So it requires immense amount of faith and great spiritual connection. You have to have a robust sense of self, saying, I'm resilient enough. I can take this. I have the resiliency to be able to deal with it. My intelligence is here. My foresight is here. Mm-hmm. Everything that has supported me all these years of my life, it's not gone away. It's growing. It's still here. Why am I thinking about the parts that I have not been able to succeed in? That's what Walt will tell you. No, don't go there. Yeah. Now sit and imagine. So here is the other part. And in fact, we have a wonderful chart which gives you lots of different ways by which we can attract this reality closer. Starts with gratitude, mm-hmm. praise, letting go of the old, forgiveness. These are all steps that will clear up the fog in which we are surrounded when we can't get out of a fear. Clearing statements, even though I believe that my life will be terrible after my mother passes. I love and accept myself completely, and I am willing to believe. So we do that. We do those affirmations and move. And then, there are things that brings it into your body space. Like I recommend the emotional freedom technique, which literally changes your brain neural connections. It changes the energy we hold in the cells of the body. There are lots of different techniques that we can use. Mm. The first thing we have to do is to recognize, be aware. Awareness, first step. It's possible. It can change. And here are the ways that we can change it. Right? Mm-hmm. Exactly. And enjoy your mother while she's here. Hey. Oh, I am.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
Well, I have a question for Malabika, specifically regarding to our listeners who are listening to all this and saying, this is something that I want to learn how to do. And, some people, like Walt gets the books and he's trying to learn it on his own. What is the benefit to receiving training from a certified SRT instructor versus learning it on your own?
There is a lot of other things that goes in. The book gives you the static information, the information that Robert was able to articulate in articles and put in the charts. There's a whole lot more which is not reflected in the books and the articles. And you know, if one would go back and read everything that he has written, there's layers and layers that we understand as we practice it, which, you know, just by reading the books, they don't come to you. And so if somebody wants to really practice the spiritual response therapy, it is good to work with somebody who has done this before and has sort of found the little nooks and crannies between the words spoken. You also have to remember that Robert was getting all this information like fast and furious over the period of 20 years or so that he downloaded it. There were a lot of things there that he himself didn't understand. And he would tell us, Spirit gave me these words, and then 2 years later, Spirit gave me the meaning of those words.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that experience comes through through application. And in the application, new sites are opened, and they are extremely valuable. So students come to me, you know, who read the books and practiced and got good results. But at some point, it sort of plateaus out because we don't have access to the additional wisdom that comes with it.
Mm.
And the other thing I would like to tell people who are considering learning the system is that it requires a lot of commitment. It's really a commitment to one's own spiritual growth. Because a lot of people come and say, you know, I want to learn this because I want to help others. And I tell them, you know what, let's put that on the shelf for the moment. How about you start with helping yourself?
Mhm.
Yeah. So you can only lead up to the point that you have reached.
Mhm.
So
That's true. I can say that with lots of experience. I mean, I've been doing a podcast for 6.5 years. Most of that time, I was working with people who understood the stuff better than I did. But that was a good thing because just by working with them, I learned how to get better at it.
yeah.
And that's really the bottom line. It's me getting better at it.
Yeah. So there's a very interesting phrase in Japanese that they use for martial arts. It's called suhari. I don't know if you've come across it.
No.
Yeah,
I have.
you have, which means that, you know, initially you follow the, you know, if you're working with a master, follow the rules. Don't try and understand it. Just do. You know, get up in the morning, you do your practice, and you do. So that's the first stage. If somebody tells you, you know, you hold the pendulum, you say these statements, you ask these questions, just do it. Because in doing that, you suddenly realize, oh, I could also do this, and we do that, and do that. So that's the next part. That's called the ha, which is I am now making it mine. So my own intelligence is kicking in and is telling me, try this, innovate, make it, custom build it for this person. And then comes the re, which is the mastering of it. Once we have mastered it, now I don't even have to worry about the technique anymore because it's become such a part of me. It's become intuitive almost. So I can call upon the technique. The technique is always the beginning stages.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've mastered it, you can do the technique all you want or not. But it's so much a part of you that you don't have to worry, just go with it. So I have a course called Spiritual Intelligence, which essentially talks about that higher mind of ours is always present, which of course in this system we call the high self, and how to listen to it, where we falter, why we get caught up in this stuff, and how to get out of that. For people who are really seeking that spiritual connection, the truth, that fulfillment which we find is missing when we are not in alignment with our our inner truth.
That's a good thing. Tell people how to reach out and find where can they sign up for that course if they're interested in the course.
Well, I have a website, but there's another one in the making right now. My website is visionholistic.net, which is the little twist because my holistic has a W in it. So it's like a hole, not the hole in the donut, but the whole of the donut. Yeah. So it's visionholistic.net. And if they search on my name, Malabika Shaw, with the correct spelling, usually my website will come up. Okay. And people can sign it. I send out periodically a newsletter saying, "Oh, this is what's coming up," and they can find it.
And also, if you are seeking out a SRT teacher close to you, if you want to actually sit down with an SRT teacher, you can go to spiritualresponse.com. There's a list of certified teachers there that will be, some of them may be close to your area. If you go to their individual websites, you can find out when they're holding classes. Malabika teaches classes online, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you could always take a class with her. Every one of the teachers are certified through the organization Spiritual Response Association, so you can be confident that each teacher has been fully vetted and is fully up to date on the teaching, so you're getting consistent information across the board. Highly recommend it.
Very good. Malabika, do I remember correctly that Bill was saying that you had worked directly with Robert Betzler, that you had learned this system from him? And if so, tell us a little bit about what he was like.
Oh, yes, I did. I had the privilege. In fact, I attended 2 of his courses. My basic training, though, was not directly with Robert, but a lady, her name is Barbara Kearns. She has passed on last year. This is what Barbara told me, that somebody gave her a book somebody had bought one of the books of SRT, but couldn't fathom it. And she met this person at a dowsing conference. And this lady gave her the book and said, "Hey, you'll probably make better sense of this than I did." So she read it, and indeed she did. And then so she, and she lived in rural Iowa. How on earth this happens to her, I don't know. But there is
law of attraction.
Divine design here. So she would pick up the phone when she would be doing the work from the book, and she'd get stuck. She'd pick up the phone, and obviously Robert recognized her potential. He would teach her. So she mainly learned it from him through conversations. And then, of course, then it went into classes. So I learned from Barbara, but Robert came to do classes to Iowa, and I took a review class with him. I took a spiritual restructuring class with him, and he was great. He was a very, no-nonsense person. If you said, "Okay, Robert," just to give you an example, we are traveling, we're going to class, and Barbara is driving, and Robert is in the car, and a couple of us. I said, "Hey, Robert, these teeth of mine have been bothering me for the longest time, and I can't figure out what the heck is going on. Can you check, please?" So he would always have the pendulum, and he goes like, he doesn't even need, he's asking, he's conversing with spirit. He says, "Oh, that was the time when you were an elephant, and they were harvesting your tusks, and you were not quite dead yet."
Mm-hmm.
That trauma. And he cleared it. So, and he would tell it to you with such confidence that you couldn't even question that. And I went like, "Oh yeah, no wonder all these elephant because throughout my life, people give me elephant things, like little figurines, pictures, and I have a bunch of them around me. Cushion covers with elephant pictures, So he would like, "Yeah, this is right." Another time I called him and I said, "Robert, I don't know, I just can't get correct answers." "Oh, because your high self is playing with you. They want you to trust yourself more." So,
oh, there's an interesting answer.
Wow.
yeah. So, he was very accessible on the one hand, But he was so focused. Like if you give him any other information other than what he was downloading, he's like, don't clutter me up. You don't have to share all this with me. What I need to know, this is what I took, because I once sent him an article. I said, Robert, what do you think about this? It was written by Bruce Lipton or somebody like that. And he wrote saying, thank you very much, but please don't do it again.
My human brain can't handle all this.
Yeah, like it was exactly, that's what I took it to mean, because I felt like, oh, really? So I took it to mean like what I need to know, I'm already getting from spirit. So you read it, expand it.
That ultimately is what it's about. It's all of us learning how to connect to that higher self and learning how to communicate with that higher self. Detzler says it at the beginning of one of those books. He emphasizes this is a great way to learn how to make and maintain that connection. So talk about that for a little bit. What do you think is the biggest benefit of not only developing that connection, but experiencing it and living with it and learning from it?
Ooh, you have asked a very deep question.
I'm good at that. That's what happens when you do this podcast for 6.5 years. You learn how to ask the really tough questions.
And that, I think that is the central point of it all. This connection with spirit and high self, which means this connection with our higher mind, is what we have come here to do. So the soul has come here at a particular level of consciousness with the whole idea of growing from there, refining, creating in the process, raising the vibrations of the self and everybody around. And the guidance for that comes from the source energy. However you define it, call God, call universal energy, field of total unlimited possibilities, it doesn't matter whether you're coming from science or metaphysics or medical, it doesn't matter. But there is a source of consciousness in my culture. I come from India, we call it Brahma. Brahma is the wellspring from where all creation begins. We're a part of that, and we went out on an adventure. The soul decided to go out and see, let's see what's out there. Pouring out here. So that's the part. As a part of spirit, it's spirit's own desire to experience, right? And so we are little drops. We are here doing our thing. And the whole idea is to grow, create, learn more. There is a central database where all this knowledge gets collected. So spirit is expanding. And the spirit is not sitting there saying, oh yeah, I've been there, done that, forget it now. No. What more? How better? What refinement? All that is going on, and we are part of that. So if we understand that, look, I am here not by accident, not by some fluke of the universe. There is a very conscious, clear, deliberate reason that I came here to express and create. And here are so many different pathways that have been laid out by so many different people, and Robert Detzler's is one great one. All of it tells us that we have these higher minds, and we have access to all the knowledge and information in that central database, if we choose to create that ability. I'm saying, as Malabika Shaw, living in the 21st century, that it's okay, you guys can keep the database. I'm really not interested. Can I? I want to know from spirit, how can I raise my surroundings, make it a happier place for the people that I come in contact with? How can I support? How can I serve? It all comes to service. How can I serve? We all do that, Oh, yeah. Am I going to do it through education, through creating an energetic space, through knowledge, through whatever it is, or through flipping burgers at a place where people come when they're hungry? It doesn't matter how I serve, but I am here to serve, and in that service, be able to get the joy of the connection, and from that learn and then move to the next level. So in order to do that, we have to keep this clear. That's my spiritual intelligence. That is telling me, all right, here is your next step. Here is the next step. So, nothing will last forever because that's not our nature. We are adventurers. We'll take that next step, and then when we have had enough of that, we've got the mastery of that one, we will yearn, we will long for the next. What's next? And spiritual intelligence will tell you, will take you there. And law of attraction is the means by which we attract that to us. By desiring. That's the octave of learning. By becoming aware, oh, it's possible. Well, there's something called spiritual response therapy. I didn't know. Now I know. And it can do this, this, and this. Oh, do I have the desire? Do I want to participate in that? Yeah, I do. Would you take a decision? Yes. Do you have the faith that you can do it? In the sense that, oh, it's too expensive. I can't afford it. It's too far away. There's nobody in my town. No, forget all that. Do you want to do it? Take a decision.
I like that.
If not today, tomorrow. Whenever. Spirit, are you listening to me? Give me the intelligence, wisdom to download so I can access the resources that I need to get this done. And so it'll give you. And in my life, since I became aware of this, I have example after example after example to say it will absolutely happen, provided you keep that connection, provided you keep that faith. It's when actually keeping the connection and keeping the faith is where we need the help. Because we are not always aware what force, if you look at the ocean of consciousness, there are all kinds of currents going in every which direction. Because, people are people, they're doing their own thing. There'll be wars, there'll be theft, there'll be this. Because we live of energy, and if we can't download our own, we like to steal it from others. And that's a lot of that goes on, but not to be dismayed. That is a part of the process of learning. And so spiritual intelligence will wake you up to that. If something is not working, there is something you're not doing right. You're not putting the step in your foot in the middle of the step, so you're faltering. So when you move for the next one, be decisive, be assertive, do it. That's the decision. And then all that will come to you. So sustaining that connection is the process by which we become spiritually robust, which means we completely love and accept ourselves. There is nothing I can do wrong. No matter what, everybody will tell you in the world, especially the religious folks, oh, you should have done it differently. It was your fault. You didn't spoon enough. You didn't tithe enough. You didn't blah, blah, blah. You are enough. At any point of time, I'm here, I'm enough, I'm here to serve. This is my way of serving. A lot of people don't even know what they want. That is the biggest tragedy of the whole story. Okay, you know what you don't want. Do you know what you want? I don't know if that's even possible.
Yes. Absolutely. That's one of my favorite topics, actually. That one right there.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think is possible? Can we start there? Mm-hmm. And there are books, so many books on law of attraction. One of my favorite ones is Michael Lozier's, the book, that workbook, of attraction books, in which he says, if you want plenitude in your life, if you want lots of money or lots of opportunities or whatever you have, train your mind to recognize plenitude when you see it. Mm-hmm. Plenty of garbage, plenty of cars and jamming up traffic on the street, plenty of leaves on the trees. So just being able to do that without judging. It doesn't have to be good or bad. You want plenty, there's plenty of snow. So
especially in New England.
So we have to step by step really handhold the mind to start changing patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what the beautiful part of it is, though we get evidence. Every time I change a little bit, oh, look, new opportunities. Oh, look, I'm not having that pain anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at all these people who showed up to support me. So all that is the evidence that the law of attraction is working.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And this is also something Michael Lozier says, keep a record. Every day, say like, what happened today that I really enjoyed out of the blues? It's unexpected. I got a call from Bill to say, hey, will you be on a call?
And here you are. And we've really appreciated you being here.
Yeah.
It's been fabulous. So thank you for taking the time to do that.
Oh, it is a pleasure.
Malabika Shaw. And how do they reach you? What's the website again? Remind people.
www.visionholistic, spelled VISIONholistic.net.
There we are. Great. Malabika, thank you very much for joining us. And Alex and Bill, it's been a pleasure as usual. Also, thank you to our podcast listeners. I wish the live stream listeners had been able to hear this, but they'll be able to hear the replay of it, and that's the main thing. So thank you all once again, and we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for the opportunity.